Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Thinking Differently with Kathy Roats. I'm Kathy. I'm so excited that you joined me because today I get to introduce you to one of my friends, Saeed Eshaghi. You know, the more that you meet people in this world, there's some cool humans out there. And Saeed is one of those cool humans. So I'm excited to interview him today and really learn how does his brain work to think differently, because he's had to think differently in life. So he's an author. He just published his new book, Escape from Comfort. I'm going to read some of the details about Saeed because I don't want to get it wrong. Okay. Saeed is originally from Iran. And back in the 1990s, maybe the late 80s, he was 15 years old and he escaped from the Islamic regime in Iran during the Iran-Iraqi war. Okay, so I don't know how old you all are, but I mean, I remember this being really a thing. He explains in this book what that means. For the first time in a long time, when I read this book, I finally really understood the relation between Iran and Iraq. I always thought they were kind of the same. And to be honest, media doesn't exactly paint any of that in the right light. So his book talks about this whole regime and the whole war and what it was like for him to literally escape from it at 15 years old. At that age, I mean, he has quite the stories. And then he went to Sweden, which I love that because I know a little bit about Sweden. My brother lives there. So that was kind of cool to read and see, like visually, I kind of knew where he was. And then from there, I mean, it's taken him all over the world. He's a renowned scientist. He's also a cancer survivor, and now he's an American citizen. He lives out in San Diego. So to hear this journey, and seriously, it's called Escape from Comfort, all the comfort that he escaped from, and then there's a twist at the end. It was one of these books that I loved just reading for the stories, but then at the end, I'm like, oh, Saeed, that's good. That's good. So enjoy today's interview where I'm just going to pick his brain. Like, how does he work through all of the challenges in life to get his brain to think differently so that he can be successful? Enjoy. So let's just start with give us an update. You know, who are you, Saeed? And obviously, let's definitely dive into your book because I loved all your stories. I loved the twist at the end. Yeah, the whole, you know, your whole who are you and what has taken you to where you are today? Just start with that.
Okay, okay. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me here. I really do. And I really appreciate you that you have my book, you have read it, and it is an honor that
Aw.
to see that. So I really, really appreciate all of that. So yeah, I'm the youngest, if I go back, I'm the youngest of five. And I was born in Iran, in the capital city of Tehran. And when I say I was the youngest, I was really the youngest. Like my brother that is older than me, immediately older than me, he's 5 years older than me. And my oldest sibling is about, I think, 15, 16 years older than I am. Yeah. So, and she always tells me that she was the one carrying me from the hospital when I was born. And so she was like a second mom to me, always,
Right.
still is. Um, but as soon as I started to really understand about, you know, growing up, like, you're 4 or 5 years old and you do, I mean, you're 4 or 5 years old, you don't do much other than probably some stupid things. And, you know, but when I was 6 years old, everything really changed. Like every time I think back, I noticed that, I can never really say that it was good like a normal good. And normal had a different meaning because that's when the Islamic Revolution happened. And it is really hard to explain when when I say life really got 180 degrees different. A lot of people that I talk to have said that, well, I understand, like it probably wasn't like just immediately, like it was gradually and like no, it was immediately, like immediately. It's like hitting a wall
Wow.
immediately. Um, it was so I grew up with kind of always being scared in a way that, the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, being everywhere in different ways on motorbikes, on patrols, and um, so that was like a normal thing, just avoiding them and knowing. And then on TV, everything was about Islam and the revolution and how bad the previous government was and how bad the rest of the world is, and we're strong and we're good. And then as that was going, the war started between Iran and Iraq. So for me, like when somebody says, when I see a movie or when somebody's talking about like, oh, this happened in 1978 or 1979, for me, my thought goes that, wow, 1978, life was good. 1979, everything collapsed. That's immediately my thought, that that's where it goes. You
Wow.
know, the movie Jaws, or um, you know, Star Wars, the early episodes that came. For me, I relate to those times. Even breakdancing or Michael Jackson's Thriller, we saw them, but it was like, oh my God, we found this video of Michael Jackson and let's watch it, but it was forbidden to have even VCRs or anything like that. So it's funny when, these are the things that I reflect back to. Um, and then, ultimately, when I was 15 years old, that's when me and my brother escaped from Iran. Of course, my parents um, coordinated, arranged that, paid for it, and we were smuggled out of Iran.
Okay, so hold on, let's back up. 6 years old is when the wall was hit and there was a
Yeah.
drastic change in life. I don't even know what I was doing at 6 years old. Like, I can't even tell you a memory of 6 years old, but isn't that how life works? Something so dramatic happens that it's embedded, imprinted on your brain. And that was age 6 for you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Good life was before age 6, and a little more stress was happening after age 6.
When I was watching the movie Schindler's List, I don't know if you have seen that. And knowing that, a family were, they were at home and then suddenly, the Nazis come in and, just drag them out. It was not that dramatic for us, but there were people that had it as dramatic. But what I want to say with that is that it basically, a war started 1979 when the revolution won, the Muslims won the revolution. That's when our war, Iranians' war with the regime, started, and it has been going since then. So, so yeah, because of that, it is as if you like enter the war and you remember a lot of that, and it's just in your brain.
So when I read the book, you do such a great job at explaining the regime. And I mean, I don't even say the countries right. I call it Iraq and Iran, and you don't. It's
Iran,
Iran.
Iran.
Talk about American, right? I'm totally American. But back in 1979, I was sheltered from the world politics. Rightfully so. That's what my parents chose, and that was healthier for me. And I remember in the 80s, the United States had they were in the news and there was a little bit of fear. And I remember asking questions, and that the world could be scary. I just remember that thought. But really, I didn't know anything about your country until the 90s when now I'm graduating high school and there's a threat of a war that would affect us. And that now I'm getting into adulthood. And that's when it starts to mean something to me. To read your stories, to read your book and understand and have it shared in a way that's not like the way media shares it, right? I mean, this is like you were there. You have that your dad had military experience and what that meant for you as a family. And wow, thank you for educating me at least on truly the reality of your world and not just what we hear on the news or what we think your country means. So thank you. So the whole book, I mean, fabulous stories, love it, right? I don't want to like spoiler alert anything. I want people to go buy the book themselves and read it because you do such a great job. So here we fast forward. You leave your country at 15 years old without your parents. You go to Sweden, fabulous country. You have many moves, and now here you are in America, and we're how many years later, and now you're writing a book. Why? Why did you put this all in a book?
That whole, from the idea coming to my head until the book was on Amazon, was its own journey. It was just, it had its own journey from how I evolved during that time as well. The idea originally came to me when, I noticed that every time I talk about it, and it was when I was with that organization that was not so good toward the end of the book, but still I was one of the better ones, and sometimes I gave training, like mindset training. So I actually started already then by talking about like what hard means, and what, how to put your mind in the right place and so forth. And because of that, I did share my story a few times, and I noticed that people were like, "Oh my gosh, I want to hear more. You should write the book. You should write a book. You should write a book." Like, I should write a book. So that's how it started.
I love that.
And it didn't happen it right after, like when the idea came, because I constantly was under the impression that, and maybe it is like that, but I didn't care about it down the line. But it wasn't the impression that, well, I need to succeed first.
Ooh.
And because it is like when you read a book that is inspiring, or you watch a movie and something that then, and even at the last IMC, International Maxwell Conference, for those who don't know what IMC
Right.
is, the VP, Chris Robinson, mentioned that, every biography or memoir has the same pattern: a dream, struggle, success. And for me was the same thing, that I thought, okay, had a dream, had struggle, but I haven't had the success yet. And that was constantly in my mind. And when I talked to the first um, ghostwriter that I came in contact with, and I told about this, and that's one of the things that I thank her about, is that she said, well, that's not true, and not necessarily true, because there is so much in your story that doesn't you don't need to be that, you know whatever that is in your mind, what success means, because there are a lot of people that need that. Not everybody has had the same tragedy or trauma or anything, but they have their own struggle, and that can help them. So that's how it started. And then I thought, and it was still about me. That was another thing. The idea of writing the book was that I got to tell my story. But then as I was started writing it, first of all, I did realize that I was successful. Like, I did succeed, and I had forgotten that.
Wow.
So for me became that, okay, yes, my story is a little different. It started with the dream, struggle, success, and the fall and the rise. and that became like, oh my gosh, this is great. And that's when I actually came started thinking of I need to learn how to talk about it. And then that's when I joined John Maxwell team, the Maxwell Leadership Certified team, to learn public speaking. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is home. Like when I saw everything else that the team has to offer, it became a lot different. And now it's like, you know what? This is what I became a scientist for to begin with, to help a lot of people. And this is how I can help a lot of people. It's like, wow, this is like I'm closing the circle.
Right. Right. Everything that
So,
you've
yeah,
gone through in life or succeeded in is for a reason, and you're not done yet.
yes,
I know when I was writing my book, and when you write, you're reliving, you're trying to put into words everything, and you're seeking your brain. I remember there were times I even wrote about it. I'm like, "Whoa, I am re-experiencing the emotion. My heart is racing, my stomach is churning. And there were also revelations because I was talking to my parents and getting clarity. And there was also like learning lessons that were happening 30 years after the event. So where was it for you? You have so much in your book, so much travel, so much experience, so many careers. Where was it for you that you were reliving and learning lessons for the first time?
100% agreeing with you, everything you said. It is that reliving it is one thing, and digging deep and reflecting on it is it's another thing. Like so, there are so many layers into when you write about your experiences. So, and I mean, I got teared eye myself, like different because it was like I could see that again. Certain things happening. So, and it was hard. It was hard, and after writing it, I have thought about. Funny enough, yesterday I was having, my wife and I were had our usual walk, and we were we live in San Diego, so it was at the Pacific coast, and we were watching the ocean, and then suddenly I told her like, it was 38 years ago I left home.
Mm,
And I had not thought about it like that. But since writing the book and talking about it in different ways, it brings a lot of those emotions. But the most important part that you mentioned are the reflections. And I think I rewrote certain parts two, three times because it was like, oh my God, no, no, this was the lesson. And like, oh no, wait, there's more into it. And so I got the most out of it myself,
yeah.
I think, out
Yeah.
of anybody else that would ever read it. Um,
I get it. I
yeah.
totally get it. That journey as an author is I wasn't expecting it myself. So when you say you got more out of it than maybe us reading it, yeah, it's probably possibly true for sure. For sure. Okay, so with this reliving it, kind of lessons learned, continuing to process it yourself, your entire life has been this journey of thinking differently. Let's dive into that because at 15 years old, you left your parents and did not see them again for years, much less talk to them because this was what in the late 80s or so. There were no cell phones.
No.
Thinking differently, figuring it out, going to Sweden, learning the language. I mean, all of this. How can you dissect and define your thought process so that you didn't get hung up in those negative spirals that our minds can go to?
I think it is incredible that I didn't. I should have.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is, but one of the one of the first things, and that was when I realized, and when I was writing the book, was that story that I mentioned about my friend, and in my first year in Sweden, and one of the first friends that I have found, and he mentioned that he was, I mean, we were the same age. I was at the time now 17, and he mentioned that a couple of years ago he was thinking of committing suicide. And me going through everything that I'd gone through by then, thought, my gosh, like what must you have gone through that you wanted to commit suicide? Because I wasn't suicidal. And then he said that it was something that his mom had promised to give him and she didn't. And he was so upset that he wanted to commit suicide. And honestly, I don't remember what it was because it was so silly and insignificant. And I told him, like, are you kidding me? If you were me, you would have killed yourself 10 times. You know, was that your reason? But then what he said was, I don't have, I have not been denied things that you have.
Wow.
So I don't have that tolerance.
Ooh.
That was, you know, it's such a timeless um, understanding. Fast forward to today, and I look at, and because of what's the war between the US and Israel on one side, and the Islamic regime on the other side, and the Strait of Hormuz is being closed, and gas prices are going up, and people going crazy, and flights being canceled. And I'm like, wow, yeah, they have not been denied things that Iranians have been denied the whole life.
Wow.
And that's why Iranians are willing to go on the street to fight for their freedom and die. And people here are being sick of the dollar extra that they have to pay for the gas. And that is, and I'm not, it is just that, pain and struggle build you up. And and everything is relative. So depending on what we saw, what we experienced, that is how we are being formed, and that is forming our mindset. And of course, it's not that everybody gets stronger. A lot of people do get suicidal. A lot of people cannot, they cave. Oh,
Well, just
and
reading your book, because you and your brother escaped together, and the choices your brother made compared to you, and where you both are in life right now is just different. You had the same experiences for a time period. You were going through the same struggle of getting out. Now, granted, he was 5 years older, right? Different headspace, but right there, kind of two kids in the same situation in two different directions
yeah,
in your route. So I love that. We weren't denied the same things. What I heard you really say is we all need to stop complaining.
it is, and it is yes and no. Um, for example, I mean, we were earlier talking about, our kids, and they're getting adult, and we got to give them space. And I refuse to ever tell my son that when I was your age, I did this and that. I refuse that because, well, my experience was my experience. I cannot ask him to have the same level of understanding, and he's very mature, but still coming to the same conclusions that I did because he didn't experience those, thankfully, in a way, right? And that goes for everyone. So it is about complaining is no, we shouldn't be complaining, but at the same time, it is about being curious. Like, why is it like this? Instead of that, I really don't care about what's going on in that part of the world. I just want to make sure that I pay enough for my stuff and don't things got getting expensive, like whatever it is, right? That
Right.
is a different mindset. That is a real complaint and being ignorant versus that it is hard. why, how are we in this seat? That's a different.
Yes, I love that curiosity. When we are curious, it does spin our brain totally in a different way that gets us thinking differently, gets us hearing the other side and not just kind of maybe fighting the other side or wanting our side to be heard. To be curious and
Yeah,
truly listen is the where the power is.
yeah, yeah.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so how else as you reflect back on your journey through life because then it takes you into different careers and then it takes you through cancer and I mean that's life. We all have this dynamic transition that happens, but how else? How else have you had to encourage your mind to think differently?
I believe a lot of that goes to how I was raised, which kind of it doesn't apply to, as you mentioned earlier, me and my brother, everything the same and then completely different paths, which is true. But also it depends. I guess it goes down to how we are wired to begin with, how we like
Mm.
when we started and as we grow up. So I was curious constantly. Like I've read all kinds of books. I, you know, every time my older brother and my dad were arguing about something, whether it was religion or politics or whatever it was, and like I was 12 years old, he was 17 years old, and my dad were arguing, and whatever my dad was saying, and for me, it was like, oh wow, this is great. So a lot of those lessons that I have from my dad are actually part of the conversations he had with my brother.
Oh.
And so, so it that drive that I have had, it was with me, and I also at any point I wanted to be number one. I'm very competitive, and so I had to be the number one in each subject, even those that I hated. Like I hated Islam religion, I hated Quran religion, or these are the subjects in school, like religion, Quran, Arabic, learning Arabic. Like I hated all of this. Like I don't want anything to do with that, but I was getting straight A's because I need it was just me. Like I had to do that. So it just followed me. And my mom always said, always reach for the top. Like that was her, it was like no, don't like reach for the top, like stretch yourself always. So it stayed with me throughout the time. And it was like I was on a mission, and it I believe that's how I've been wired to keep pushing and moving forward. One other thing that also um which I don't know if it's good or bad because of things that happen in my life, but I pointed out in a book too that I believe since I left my parents' home and I did not have their supervision, and as soon as I turned 18, I lived by myself. I was still going to high school, and not just that I lived by myself, but I was the only, like, my siblings that were in other cities in Sweden. So I was in that little town, and I had my newly family, let's put it this way, my friends and their families and all. So that became my environment, my bubble, but I was still living by myself. So whatever decisions that I was making, good or bad, it was not nobody. I was not being hindered. I was not being questioned. I was not being challenged. And I believe that again made me unhinged. Like it is that drive that I've had, and it was not controlled, again, in a good and bad way, if you will. Then, that made me do more stupid things that I should have. It made me, and but then it also made me nuts, like always pushing. Um, and not having any other ideas that would obscure my own way of thinking.
Wow, that's so true. A lot of us thinking differently. It's not just how we're wired, it's the challenge that other people might ask us a question in a different way or encourage us, challenge us in a different way. I never thought about that angle. That's so true.
Yeah.
How do you lead your life now because of your past?
This may not sound very, please feel free to edit it out if it doesn't sound good. But one of
I
the
can't wait
things
to hear it. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say.
I, I hope I'm not going to disappoint you, but sometimes my wife and I mean, she's a scientist and she's like, I mean, you read the book. I mean, she's absolutely amazing. And sometimes when we talk and we agree, like, how it says like the blessed are these people, the blessed are those people, right? And for us, like the blessed are really the idiots because they have no clue. They have no clue. They could be content with the most ridiculous thing, and no matter what happens in the around them on the world or whatever they do, they don't know because they don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and so
Right.
they can't care about something that they don't realize. Um, and then on contrary, not that I am not like, but it the more I feel that I realize things and I learn, like, oh my gosh, the harder it gets
Yeah.
because of like knowing that, oh my gosh, I have so much to learn and I have such a like I have so many faults and so many things that I need to correct and so much to grow. Um, One of the things, for example, that I on a daily basis struggle with is that high road leadership that starts with that you must value everyone. And I
Mm.
can't value everyone
Wow.
because of things that I have experienced and things that I see that, and to some level for me is like it is easy to think that you can value everyone when you haven't been hurt and the same way. And yet seeing some people that, somebody killed their child and they go and forgive that person. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I cannot comprehend that.
Hmm.
So so yeah, it's like the more I know, the more I know that I don't know. And the more I experience, the more it becomes like so it gets harder, but and it's because of the increase. I believe that is because awareness is increasing more and more, and the more I am aware, I don't know about everybody else, but the more I am aware of what I'm doing and my surrounding, the more I get, um, I need to remind myself to be mindful.
Yeah, we all do. We all have those situations that we were adamant against or for, and then years later we're like, oh, that wasn't good. That
Yeah,
now I need to stick my foot in my mouth or whatever the case is. But what do you hope people get out of reading your book?
I do hope that they, first of all, that they understand that the storms that they are going through, whatever they have been going through, they are going through, is really a blessing to make them stronger and prepare them for the rest, for the next level. Because you can't get to that level without being prepared.
Hmm.
Um, and it is basically they're being prepared for that. No matter how weird it may sound, and of course everything is circumstantial, but even my cancer, for example, I when I look at it, it's like it was a blessing in disguise because of the what it how it made me think, what was going on internally with, my family and all that. So it saved me from the real destruction in a way.
Mm.
So so that's what I hope from people when they're reading it. That's one of the things that whatever they're going through, learn from it and be okay and don't let it discourage you from wherever you wanted to, whatever you really want to do and what is in your heart. And then also, that's one thing. And the other thing is that really the part, at the end, I talk about the FAR framework, but how to look at our goals, what to focus on. I hope they really dived in and dig deep and get away from the external satisfactions, the degree, the career, the certificate, the amount of money, the ink, like whatever it is, that they get away from that for a minute. Not that they shouldn't pursue those. Absolutely, they should pursue, but take a minute and really see that what's the point of that? Like what is that the real goal or is something beyond that? And look for that whatever is beyond that. Finding that will keep them focused in the long run. And they will hit all those other goals inevitably because it is aligned. Now it makes sense. So these are the two things that I really hope that they're encouraged. They're like as if like something bad happens that yes, I'm excited, instead of drowning themselves in misery. And the other is to really dig deep and look where they really want to go, not the so-called tangible goals.
Just in our conversation today, I'm like, oh, I need to go reread the book again. I need to go back to that model you talk about at the end. I need to rethink my own goals and just what your friend said. Can you repeat again? What did your friend say that made you two different in your challenges? How did he word it?
Yeah, he said that I have not been denied things that you have, so I
Mhm.
don't have the tolerance.
Tolerance. That's what creates resilience in us is by
Exactly.
working through challenges like that. Okay, so I mean there's so much, right? There's so much we could talk about. And I know people are going to read this and be like 15 years old. Oh my gosh, talk to me about your mother. Like how did your mother do that? I mean there's so many angles, but before we end our interview here today, what is the favorite story in your book that you enjoyed retelling?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know which one is the favorite because I mean, some of them, they do bring smiles to my face. It's just, reliving them. And it's like, oh my God, that was silly. That was stupid. I can tell you what the one that most people have mentioned as that was their funniest. And that is how I learned Swedish, or one of the methods, and I don't want to spoil there, but one of the
I know
methods.
I don't want to give any spoilers, but yeah, what can you tease us with that will get us back into your book?
It was one of those people that it was a couple that came and knocked on the door and they wanted to pursue with their belief and faith. And I thought, my gosh, these people want to talk. I need to talk Swedish. Come on in.
Okay, so hold on. I've been to Sweden and I'm amazed at how well they speak English. And they actually have the flip mindset that says, oh, you speak English. I want to practice my English. So, yes, I want to talk to you. And Swedish people usually don't really want to talk to people, especially strangers. But that's hilarious because of the opposite that happens in Sweden when you speak English.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's very interesting, Kathy, because I remember, so I was able to learn Turkish after that year in Turkey. So I could speak Turkish almost fluent, and well, daily speaking fluently. I mean, just learn it by. by default. But when I came, and I was good in English, I even taught, when I was in Turkey, some Persian adults that didn't were not good in English. I taught them some like words here and there. So I was better than the average. But I remember when I got to Sweden, I turned off everything and I was super focused that no, 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 not that I need to learn Swedish. I'm going to speak just like that. I'm not going to have any accents. And I, and I was in part of Sweden. It was like it was on the west side of Sweden, close to the border to Norway, and they have a certain dialect there. So I got their dialects. And whenever I was in Stockholm and other places, like, oh my God, that's so cute. Is that we're part of like, yeah, I'm from like, oh, that's so cute. Like, oh, I guess I have the local dialect now.
Well, it's no different than the States, right? I live in Wisconsin, different accent than San Diego or Texas. It's the
Exactly.
same. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. That's fun.
Yeah, it's almost like as it was talking Southern accent, it's in the
Right,
States.
right, right. I love that. I love that. Yeah, definitely go get the book and read the book. But I like what you just said too about how you put away all distractions. And that is a key to our world today. We have so many distractions that it creates this overload in our anxiety, in our projects and tasks and just all the stuff. When we can put away the distractions and focus, look at the success we can have. We can even learn an accent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's huge. And it one of the one of the philosophies that like had since the beginning, it was that even when I was having conversations or discussions with my brother during those times, and whatever he was saying or complaining about or this, and for me was that, but how is that really relevant? Like how is that helping you? Like, what's the point of you, moaning about and all that? It's so it that's what I'm saying. It was something that was always with me, and it just made sense when I started reading, self-help books like with John and everybody else. And that's like, yeah, this makes sense. This is so um that's to your earlier question. I know we're running out of time, but to your earlier question, that's probably was on another thing that helped me constantly. It was there like, if it doesn't help me, why should I be focusing on that? If Turkish doesn't help me in Sweden, so why should I focus on speaking Persian with other Iranians doesn't help me to learn Swedish? So why, like, I'm now I'm living in Sweden. I know who I
Mhm.
am. I don't need to hang out with Iranians to prove that. I know I'm Iranian. So, but I'm going to live in Sweden and embrace that culture, that language, that life. So that's how I've been thinking.
I firmly believe that we all can change the way we think. If we choose to, we can switch our choices to get better results. However, what you just said as well is there is this level of being born with a certain kind of wiring,
Yeah,
right? Whether you were born with the wiring, your mom encouraged you with the things she was saying, and now John Maxwell's books is like, oh, it's not just me that thinks like this. There's benefit to this. There's benefit to having the natural wiring, but by choosing it is a whole new dynamic on where you could go.
absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
Okay, so Saeed, one last thing. What's your next goal?
Oh, so I have come to the I do have a couple of books in mind. One of them is about belief. It's that, believing different things and that, and then you go to limiting beliefs, false beliefs, things that and and a title, I'm putting it out there. It's going to come out. I don't know when, but I just putting it out there so that it comes back to me at one point. It's going to be called "There's a Lie in Every Belief." And how you write the word belief, there's a lie in between there. So I'm going to be joking about it, even that I'm not telling untruth because there is a lie inside the belief. So, so
That's
to
good. I
put the
like
guard
that.
down. So anyway, but other than writing a couple of other books that I have in mind, it is I have come to point that I was a scientist. I'm still a scientist. I still, when I have conversations with scientists, it is a different it's home to me. It's like
Oh,
and and now I am like I cannot go back to science, but what I am focusing on is to get involved with biotech, life science scientists with their leadership because there is no matter how pioneering they are, no matter how smart they are, the, the problem they need leadership probably most of many others because if they because they've been trained the whole life. Like I remember studying all that time, working hard, being poor as a student and, poor PhD student and all that, but you never get training in leadership. So when
yeah.
you are promoted to be a manager, to be a scientist, to be a principal investigator, to be a professor, to be um, VP, whatever it is, but you're still you don't and at best they're at the positional level, the
Mhm.
first out of five level of leadership. So that's where I want to work exclusively, if I can, to help those because those brilliant minds, if they know how to lead, they're
Yeah.
going to be amazing.
Scientists have their own language, right? And you already
Exactly.
know that language too. So
Yes.
the connection right there, what a blessing that you can bring
Yes.
it to to them in that way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And
Well,
that
I
allows me to relive, to actually go back and be part of, feel that, okay, now I'm back and I'm part of that scientific advancements that are happening and hopefully increases because of my involvement. So that's how I'll see myself go back to live that life again.
that's where you can get geeky again.
Exactly. It's very selfish.
It's very selfish. We all have a little selfishness in us. It's okay. Well, I can't wait to read your next book, whatever it is, whether it's the one you already kind of threw out there or a different one. I love how you tell stories, but I love how you can always bring it back into a learning lesson. And that's one thing I think I wrote it in my Amazon review is I read the book and I love the stories and I loved the escape from comfort. And for each example, I could see how you were escaping for comfort. But at the end, there was a twist where I was like, oh, that was good, Saeed. That was good. That was good. So
Thank you.
in the comments area, we're going to put a link to your book. So definitely I'm encouraging everybody to go read your amazing story. Thank you for going through the grueling process of being an author and putting it into words because we do need to hear your story and we do learn from you. So thank you for sharing that with the world.
Probably just reiterating that thinking differently start by um, by being curious. The ABC should be always be curious.
Yeah.
Um, so, and again, that's the scientist part of me. Scientists are curious, like, hey, how does this work? Why does it work like that? And what if I do it like this? What if I do it like that? And that's why. So, think questioning everything is one thing. And everybody can live like a scientist. Even scientists can live like a scientist in their daily lives because everything is an experiment.
Mhm.
Everything we do is an experiment. And when we fail in something, it is just that experiment didn't work.
Right.
So in the lab, like I always say, like imagine like a scientist would say, "Oh my God, the experiment didn't work. I'm horrible at this. I cannot do this. This doesn't work. I'm gonna quit this thing. I'm gonna." No, they're like they constantly. Sometimes it takes 6, 7 months just to get you know, a small result. That yes, now we're onto something, and they're like miles away. But even those scientists, when they come in their lives, they're discouraged by everything. So if we live our lives constantly just being curious, being researching, just being that scientist minded in that way, then everything is just an experiment.
Right when you were sharing that example the other way of like, oh, I'm stupid and that doesn't work. I can't do anything. I've been there, right? I've said those things and I think that I am a curious person, but yet I love that you just told me that even scientists in their daily life kind of revert back to that toxic thinking.
Yeah.
And we have to constantly be curious in our entire life.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
More
Thank you.
gold. Once again, more gold.
Thank you. Thank you. And we all do that. Like it's not that it's as I mentioned earlier, the more we become aware, the more we know we're unaware of a lot of things.
Yeah, aware
So
of how
yeah,
much more we have to learn.
yeah, yeah.
When I was younger, I always thought like my parents and my grandparents, they finally made it and they're so wise and they know everything. I wanted to be a teacher because she had the answer key and she knew everything. And now I'm an adult. I don't know where the answer key is.
Thank you. Thank you. And only an author knows what another author goes through. So you know exactly.
It's so true. It is so true. It is so true. Awesome. Well, thanks for letting me interview you as well. I love our conversations. I mean, we didn't even get into what you and I get into when we work together.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love the conversations. You know what? People just have to friend you. That's all.
Thank you so much, Kathy. This was amazing. I had so much fun and great interview, great conversation. And thank you for having me here. I really appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. Okay, my friends. Isn't he fascinating? And we just dibble dabbled in all his amazing stories. So definitely check out the comments area or the description area of today's episode and check out his book. It is such a great read for the stories alone. I hope that you've enjoyed today as much as I have. And I challenge you to go out, be curious, and just see how your whole brain starts to think differently. Be great today, my friends. I hope this topic has challenged you to think differently as you strive to grow from success to world class. Please follow this podcast, share it with your friends, and follow me and Unity Consulting on all social platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and our website, unityconsultingllc.com. I look forward to connecting with you next time to challenge your habits so that you are more efficient and fully empowered.